You probably heard about the One Big Beautiful Bill, so-called, that was recently passed by Congress and then signed by the president. Maybe wondering how that impacts commercial real estate ownership and investment across country, but specifically to Montana. And there's two big components to it that are worth mentioning. The first one is that the Federal Opportunity Zone program has been extended and made permanent. And then there's some modifications to that. And then also the 100% federal bonus depreciation has been brought back. So both those have pretty significant implications for ownership of commercial real estate and how that might have some tax implications for you that are positive. So on the Opportunity Zone program, if you remember in 2017, there's something called the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which was passed, and it set these things called opportunity zones. It's a federal program for federal tax. It's then managed by the states in terms of where they nominate zones and then how they were designated. So generally in lower income census tracts that are in need of development. The idea was to incentivize capital to go into these zones to encourage development. But the beauty of opportunity zones is it would allow you to take capital gains from not just the sale of real estate, but also from stocks, or if you sold a business interest or something like that, you could take that gain, put it into an opportunity fund, as long as that opportunity fund then invested in projects that met the requirements for this opportunity zone in terms of adding value and injecting capital into projects, you qualify for these tax advantages. So there were tax advantages on the way in to the project. So with your gain that you were bringing into the deal, where it would reduce your tax amount by basically increasing the basis. And then if you stayed in that project for 10 years, meaning you continue to own it for 10 years, when you sold at this end of this 10-year period, you would have no capital gains tax due, including recapture. So very beneficial if the projects were done right. So that project generated a ton of interest for a period of time, but because there was a defined sunset period on it at the end of 2026, the interest has kind of waned as we got closer to the end of that date. So still some money going into them, but it's definitely waned. So with this new, renewed lease on life for the Opportunity Zone program, it should incentivize a bunch of investment into these opportunity zones in the coming years. So the big changes are that there's more of a rural focus to these opportunity zones. So especially for Montana, where we have a lot of rural counties, at least 1/3 of the opportunity zones need to be designated into rural areas. If you think of the smaller towns in Montana, Hamilton, Phillipsburg-sized towns, things like that, very likely that more capital will be injected into those, provided that there's actually an opportunity zone in those kind of towns. So that'll be to be determined on how the state of Montana designates those zones. So that's a big one. Another one is that it has changed how the treatment of when the tax goes in terms of the capital gains going into the project, how that tax adjustment is made. So we can elaborate on that in a future post. Another big one is that now to meet the requirement for an opportunity zone before, you used to have to double the basis in it. So to hit the substantial improvement hurdle, that generally meant that if you had basis in it, you had to double it. And so now it's a 50% addition rather than doubling it. What it should do is make the remodel or rehabilitation or redevelopment of existing buildings more palatable or more likely to be accomplished through the Opportunity Zone program. So I think that will have the benefit of taking existing buildings, retrofitting them to make sure that they meet the Opportunity Zone requirements. And I think you'll see more capital being injected into those. So that will also be an opportunity, I think, for investors in commercial real estate in Montana here in the coming years. Also, with this big, beautiful bill, so-called, the 100% federal bonus depreciation was brought back. So that had been phasing out over each year. There was a 20% reduction in terms of what the accelerated depreciation was until it went to zero. So now it's been made permanent at 100%. That could be very beneficial depending on your tax situation. If you have gains that you need to defer, or you're trying to shelter some of the gains by purchasing real estate or by making additions to real estate, if you pair it with a cost segregation study, it should give you the opportunity to depreciate a lot up front, which could have the effect of significantly reducing tax burden for both the opportunity zones and for the accelerated depreciation. Really important to have your tax attorney and accountant in conjunction with whatever real estate consultant, advisor, and broker you're working with work together in terms of how best to shape that. But there's significant tools in this most recently passed bill that will, I think, incentivize further investment in commercial real estate.